Hey everyone, and welcome in to World Tour Weekly, your one-stop shop for all competitive Flesh and Blood news. If last week was a ramping up of the competitive season, then in this week it's in full swing. With Calling Hamburg, multiple Battle Hardens, ProQuest Yokohama, the banned and suspended announcement, and a special surprise at the end of the video, we have a lot to go over. Let's get into it. Now, this last weekend had so many events that I feel like the only place we can start is by breaking them down in today's Metagame Minute. Starting with the big one, Calling Hamburg. Out of the total 584 players at Calling Hamburg, 93 of them brought Syndra to battle, making her the most popular deck in the field by a pretty decent margin. Behind her were Verdance, Florian, Gravy, and KO Armed and Dangerous, all with a pretty solid slice of the pie. Now, Verdance was second most represented in the tournament, so obviously a lot of people brought her. But I think you might be surprised at some of the names of the players that decided to go with the Earth Wizard. Arthur Trehay, Pablo Pintor, Brody Spurlock, Jacob Clemens, and many more recognizable names decided to bring Verdance to this tournament, which makes me think that the old sentiment about Verdance being a bottom of tier 1, top of tier 2 deck has started to change among the top players. Now, obviously, I've been a Verdance truther for quite a while, but even I can admit that she's probably more well-positioned now than she has been ever in the past. The new tools like Light Up the Leaves and Everbloom Life give her much needed consistency in her Earth base while not sacrificing anything on the power front. If you're looking to play in a ProQuest these coming weeks, you have to have a plan for Verdance. Alright, let's take a look at day 2 of the Calling, where it seems like Syndra, Gravy Bones, Florian, and KO all had pretty rough days while all 3 wizard heroes performed quite nicely. Dio also continues to put up solid numbers with 23% of players bringing her converting to day 2. Now, Dio seems pretty well situated into the rest of the top of the meta. In my own personal estimation though, just how well situated she is exactly depends a lot on Pilot's skill. Bringing her into a field filled with Earth heroes asks a lot of the player, but if you're able to properly navigate the block heavy decks, I think she's quite the powerhouse. Moving on to the top 8, we see 2 copies of Verdance, 1 Acilio, 1 Dash.io, 1 Fang, 2 Syndra, and 1 Victor Goldmane. Let's take a look at the Battle Hardened top 8, starting with Osaka, where we had 2 Gravy Bones, 1 Florian, 1 Kano, 1 Syndra, 2 Kasai, and 1 Verdance. Definitely nice to see Kasai starting to pop up in top cuts. For Battle Hardened Sonoma, the breakdown was 1 Syndra, 3 Verdance, 1 KO Armed and Dangerous, 1 Florian, 1 Dorinthia, and finally 1 Arachne Huntsman, piloted by Taylor Morrow, who came so close to taking down the whole thing. Battle Hardened Hamburg was in the Living Legend format and had 3 Chains, 1 Zen, 1 Viserai, 1 Nu, and 2 Briar. Now that's a lot of Rune Blades. Shifting over to week 1 of the ProQuest Yokohama season, Gravy Bones takes the top spot with 15 wins in the Classic Constructed format. Behind him is Syndra with 14, Verdance with 11, and Florian with 9. These 4 decks definitely seem to be the top dogs currently in the format, but I was very surprised to see that Kasai and Kano are right behind them. They tend to have much lower play rate than the top heroes on this chart, making me wonder if their win rate to play rate ratio is perhaps even higher than some of the heroes that finished with more wins. There are also Living Legend events during this ProQuest season, but I won't have that data until the end of the season. Alright, now that we've discussed the meta of the last weekend, let's talk about the champions in today's Weekend Winners. Starting again with Calling Hamburg, Arthur Trehay finished first playing Verdance, Thorn of the Rose. It's been quite a couple of weeks for Arthur as his team won the Paris Battle Hardened Team Classic Constructed event the week before. Speaking of great runs, Justin Koo took down Battle Hardened Osaka playing Gravy Bones, just 1 week after finishing second in Calling Shizuoka with the same hero. Back at Hamburg, Carl Naylor took down the Living Legend Battle Hardened playing Zen, Tamer of Purpose. And finally, a young, handsome wizard enjoyer won Battle Hardened Sonoma on his favorite hero. Meaning that I got this gold foil, which I haven't opened yet. I figured it'd be fun to crack it at the end of the video, so make sure you stick around for that. Congratulations once again to all of our weekend winners. Alright, let's zoom out from the events to talk about the banned and restricted announcement and how it's going to affect the Living Legend format moving forward. As of yesterday, the following banned and restricted announcement came into effect. Count Your Blessings is restricted, which is pretty funny considering that's basically banning it. Zephyr Needle is banned, and Warmonger's Diplomacy is unrestricted. Now, in order to fully estimate the impact of these changes, we need to talk about how the Living Legend format was before them. Rune Blades have been doing quite well in the format so far. From Briar to Chain and now to Viserai, Runeblades have been putting up some pretty impressive results consistently. Ira has also been constantly finishing well, with a Zephyr Needle-centric build popularized by Naib continuing to find success. Zen has also been using the needles and won a Battle Hardened just this last weekend. On the other side of this equation, the only late game centric decks in the formats are Count Your Blessings piles, and maybe Starvo, if he even deserves to be called a late game deck. Any deck that tries to play a slow game has to contend with the massive amount of value that 9 copies of CYB gives you, and that's a pretty tough ask. This pushes most mid-range and late game decks out of the format unless they can use CYB themselves. Enter the banned and restricted announcement. Now, with Zephyr Needles gone, Ira takes a huge hit. She's probably removed from the format entirely. Zen also gets hit, but not quite as hard as Ira, as what he does is a little bit more intrinsically powerful than what Ira brings to the table. Count Your Blessings being restricted has completely saved the format, in my opinion. The announcement notes that CYB decks were a little bit too slow to get the value engine rolling to contend with the aggro decks of the format, but I don't actually think that's true at all. I believe that if CYB was going to be fully legal at Worlds, we would see some absolutely degenerate stuff come out of hiding. The decks haven't been seeing a ton of success in the small amount of LL events we've seen so far, but with the right amount of dedicated testing, I think that CYB would have been a dominant force in the meta. With Count Your Blessings gone, the decks with slightly slower game plans might be able to compete a little bit better in the format, but honestly, I'm not exactly sure what these decks would even be. To help them out, Warmonger's Diplomacy getting unrestricted helps them slow down decks like Runeblades and a couple of other things as well. I imagine that most decks that don't get hosed by this powerful Majestic will probably be running the full 3 copies. Like LSS mentioned in the article, we don't have a ton of Living Legend data, so it's hard to make proper predictions about it. If I had to make a prediction, however, I would say that decks with a more proactive, powerful game plan will probably still run the format, even with Warmonger's Diplomacy unrestricted. But only time will tell. Okay, now on to the part of the show that I've been looking forward to the most, opening the gold foil. Every time I open one of these, I pray that it's Stormstriders, or at least not some banned card like Crown of Seeds. If it's good, everyone has to freak out in the comments. If it's bad, however, I want Fs in the chat. Alright, let's see what it is. I'm always nervous opening these. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna open it so that we see it at the same time. Alright, ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh, not bad. I love that they started doing extended art for the gold foils. It feels so bad when there's a cold foil extended art and your gold foil is just regular. Better believe that when Marlin starts to see a little bit more play, I'll be properly blinged out. And with that, it's time to wrap up this week's show. Make sure you head out to your local ProQuest for a shot at some fantastic prizes and an invite to Pro Tour Yokohama. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Majiin, and I'll see you next time on World Tour Weekly.